I just wanted to preface this video because it does get quite technical, but mastering these communication skills is what allowed me to have over 100 million of contracted deal value in my career and sell high ticket items and consistently sell to the top end of the market. So watch through this whole video, comment below any questions that you've got, or if you understood it, because it is quite technical. But mastering this is what helped me massively in selling so much. And if you are wanting to sell more, either get your sales team to sell more or yourself sell more within your business, then watch this all the way through, start implementing it, and you will get results. So I'm going to be talking about the 5 different levels of communication and how that affects relationships and relating it back to sales, especially in businesses like insurtech, proptech and fintech, where we have long sales cycles and we rely on building relationships with the prospects. So the 5 levels of communication are 1, ritual, and ritual being saying hey, saying you're right. It's just those ritual greetings, the ritual things that you say to people whenever you meet them or come across them, like saying bye also. Then you have extended ritual. So this is, again, similar things, very small value, small talk. So you'd say stuff like, how's the weather today? Where are you based? All stuff like this, stuff that you don't really care about, but you ask anyway. Then you have level 3, which is content. So content is matter of fact, things that are true. So it could be talking about how was the project? How is the project getting on? How far are you along on completing the project? So it's all things that are matter of fact, that are topical, real, true, that you can talk about. Then you've got level 4, which is emotional self-disclosure. So this is where you are sharing how you feel about certain situations. So saying I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, all things like this. It's sharing how you are feeling internally. A lot of the time people get this wrong because in the English language we say I feel about certain things, about I feel angry, I feel annoyed, I found that funny. When we didn't really find it funny, we just say it, which is rare for languages, but it's one of the many confusing things about the English language. And then level 5 is mutual emotional disclosure. So this is where you're telling people how you feel about them, how they have made you feel about a certain situation. So when you closed the door in my face, that made me angry. When you told me that you didn't want to go ahead, that made me upset. When you showed up to the call late, I was worried. All stuff like this. This is mutual emotional disclosure. So that's the 5 levels. Now I'm going to relate it back to sales and B2B sales and how it can improve your B2B sales conversion and the relationships that you build with people. So most of the time people communicate in the top 3 levels. Ritual, extended ritual, and content. Where you can actually build relationships with people is in level 4 and level 5. Emotional self-disclosure and mutual emotional disclosure. So using these 5 levels, there's a few ways that you can increase your likelihood to have greater relationships with prospects and people in your business-to-business relationships. So first is cutting out some of the 1 to 3 rubbish, because asking people about how their day is and how the weather is doesn't add any value. It's just ritual, it's habit, it's people just say it. But if you look at friend relationships, I can't think about the last time. Even thinking about it now, I'm not sure when the last time I asked one of my friends how the weather is. So you don't need to say it and you can still be friends, you can still have a good relationship with people. So cutting out the stuff that you feel like you have to say as part of the ritual brings you to a deeper level. You're only talking about level 1, level 3, level 4 and level 5. No extended ritual. So you say hi, you talk about the project, and then you talk about emotions and how they have made you feel about your emotions. They're the only points that you need to talk about. Now, it's not as simple as just cutting out level 2, because there will be situations where level 2 does come into play. So what you really want to learn is how to maximize your level 4 and level 5 communication. So level 4, emotional self-disclosure, or self-emotional disclosure, whatever way you want to say it. How can you increase this? Well, there's 2 ways. One is by sharing vulnerability, and 2 is by using assumed familiarity with these people. And they kind of play into each other, but I'll give an example of vulnerability, sharing of vulnerability. So this is when you can share how you felt about a certain situation. I'll give an example. I had one the other day where I felt really embarrassed, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I did feel embarrassed. What happened was I was at a sports bar having some chicken wings actually and watching the football. And I went to leave, game finished, everything was all good with the food, and I went to say bye to the serving staff. Said bye, thank you. No response from the serving staff. However, everyone else in the sports bar turned around because I was quite loud. Then everyone was looking at me, and there was already the embarrassment building up. So then I decided to double down, and I went, "See you later," even louder. So then everyone else that didn't notice then had noticed me getting aired. So I was completely ignored, completely aired out to drive by the waiter or the serving staff, and I just quickly hurried out of the room. Now, me sharing this in a video or in a professional setting isn't unprofessional. There's nothing that I said in that story that was unprofessional. However, if I tell this story to prospects, then they will understand me further. They will feel the embarrassment with me. So I will feel embarrassed whilst telling the story. I felt embarrassed at the time. They will feel that second-hand embarrassment to hearing about that story. Probably as you have listening to this video. And then building that emotional connection just through a story means that they will have felt a certain way whilst talking to me. That initial embarrassment, then we laugh about it after, then they feel good about it. Maybe it's made them feel good about other embarrassing moments. People are happy to share. So that is sharing the vulnerability. Then also there's the assumed familiarity. So that also comes off the back of that. Comes off the back of cutting out the level 2, as I mentioned earlier. But also diving into maybe certain personal things that people have spoken about before. So how are you getting on with X, Y, and Z's doctor's appointment? I know you were quite anxious about it. So it's not that they've made me feel anxious, which is the next level, but it's sharing that I understood that they felt anxious about something. That assumed familiarity. Whereas typically people wouldn't bring this up. Typically people would kind of, if someone brought something up, they'd brush past it, or they wouldn't dive into how that made them feel about certain situations. They tread round on eggshells. Whereas I actually think bringing these stuff up, bringing it up again, if it's been brought up to you before, bring it up again. If they've brought it up to you, then they don't mind speaking about it, and you've got a chance there to actually show that you care, show that you listen, and understand them at a deeper level of like, were you worried about going in for that appointment? Were you excited to get it sorted? How do you feel about it? Then there's level 5, and level 5 is where people will struggle the most. It's not because they don't feel the emotions caused by the other person, because they don't share them. They get annoyed about certain situations, and they don't say anything. They just get angry, then resentment builds, and then they move on. But then the other person kind of notices something's off, but then they don't speak about it as well. And this happens in the B2B space all the time. Think about how many people have not shown up for meetings. It happens all the time. It happened to me twice today. People didn't show up for meetings. And instead of just when they next hop on the meeting, because I will follow up with everyone until they tell me to leave them alone, so I always get people back onto the meetings with me. If I get onto the meeting and don't say that something about them not showing up before, then it's just brush past it. It's miss a clear opportunity to build a bit of an emotional connection. So I'll say, "Oh, I was worried. I thought you hated me when you didn't show up the other day." just sharing something casual, that's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but sharing something that can show that I was aware that they didn't show up. I didn't particularly like it. I'm not really annoyed, but it didn't make me feel a certain way. Then they'll probably try and avoid it, or at least let me know ahead of time. And it has built that standing, that mutual understanding of how I like things to be, how they like things to be, because they will say, "Oh, sorry, I really feel bad that I made you feel that way," or "Yeah, sorry, I feel bad about not letting you know. It was something XYZ came up, and it completely escaped my mind." And then it's again, they've shared back with me that they felt bad. They now feel bad that I brought it up. They won't do it again. Oh, I can appreciate you bringing that up. Thanks for letting me know. I understand these things come up. You've put my mind at ease about it. I'm sure next time you show up. If you've said all of this, I know it gets into it. You could keep going on forever as a thank you chain or anything like that. But if you've shared that you appreciate that they understood and that they're not going to do something again, then they won't do it again. So not only have you built more of an understanding, you built more of a relationship, but also you've probably secured them not showing up again to meetings. So in sales, why is this helpful? Well, because you're actually building relationships with people instead of just relying on following up with them all the time and brushing past situations that maybe aren't so great, or not sharing with people how it makes you feel. And it becomes a very toxic spiral of people then in the business to business space being very cold. Whereas the most successful people, and when I've had the most success in the business to business space, is when I'm building relationships, having an emotional understanding, sharing some vulnerability, sharing some familiarity, becoming familiar with the people that I'm dealing with. And then the levels of communication are so much deeper. We can dive into anything without it feeling awkward. If they're not happy with certain service delivering offerings or how a certain campaign is going with me, then they'll tell me. And I don't then say, I don't just take offense to it, or I don't say, put the blame back on them, which usually happens. If you said, "Oh, I feel a bit concerned, I feel a bit annoyed that it's not gone the way we thought it was," people then put their walls up and say, "Oh, it's your fault. It's because you didn't do X, Y, and Z." Whereas that's never productive. So you avoid all of these different situations as well. So to summarize, you've got level 1 to 3 levels of communication, which have their place. I'm not saying skip them all, but try and take them out where possible. And level 4 to 5, the emotional disclosure, the mutual or the self, is where you're going to actually build real relationships and have a different level of conversation with people. I recommend testing it out with people in the office first if you don't feel comfortable to go in straight with prospects and clients. Test it out with me, get on a call. I'm happy to sandbox some conversations so you can get warm with it. Obviously, if this video blows up and there's 100,000 people that watch it, then I'm not getting on the call with everyone. But so far, we've had about 50 views of video, so I reckon I'll be alright.